welcome to a whole new series called Baking with Miss Natalie. I had so much fun last Friday making vanilla cupcakes with all of you. So I thought it would be a super great idea to do some more baking videos. So this morning I read a story all about this little red hen who really wanted to make some bread. So we are going to make our very own bread today. Now there's something really cool about this bread recipe. This bread recipe doesn't use the main ingredient that most bread recipes uses, which is yeast. So yeast helps make bread nice and fluffy, and it makes the bread dough get nice and big so that when you bake it, it has really nice texture inside of the bread, and it makes it have that really fluffy, soft bread texture that you usually love. But this one isn't going to use any yeast. We're going to use other ingredients to help make that fluffiness. But let's go ahead and start making our bread. So the first thing I'm going to tell you about making our bread is what ingredients are we using today. So let's go ahead and go through the list. The first thing that you're going to need is flour. The next thing you're going to need is granulated sugar. You're also going to need salt. Just table salt is fine. You're also going to need baking soda. We're also using baking powder. You're going to need buttermilk. You're also going to need mild cheddar cheese that has been shredded. You're also going to need chives. You also will need a zucchini. You're also going to need 1 egg. And the last thing that we're using is melted butter. So the bread that we're making, if you can't guess by the ingredients, is a zucchini, cheddar cheese, and chive buttermilk soft bread. This bread is going to be super tasty when it's all done. So let's go ahead and start making it. The first thing that we're going to need to do, and this is the part where you're going to need to get your mom, your dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle to help you, is you're going to need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees so that it can warm up while we are prepping all of our bread. So go ahead and do that. And then the next thing you're going to need is a bread loaf tin. It looks like this. This one, I believe, is 9 inches by 5 inches. This is a pretty good size. So go ahead and grab one of these. If you don't have a bread tin in this shape, you can always just use a round tin, and then your bread will just be more of a round loaf rather than the loaves that you typically see when you go to the grocery store. So what we're going to do to get this all ready is grab some parchment paper, and we're going to put parchment paper in the pan. And what this does is help the bread not stick to the sides of the pan. And then when it's all done cooking, it's a lot easier just to take the bread out using the leftover parchments that fall over the side. And then it helps it cool down faster because you can take that out right away. So go ahead and get your parchment paper. And make sure that you rip off a good amount so that you will have some leftover laying on the sides when you push it down. So then push it down. Make sure all the corners are all the way down. There we go. And now we can just put this to the side until we're ready to put our bread in. Okay, so now let's mix all of our ingredients together. Just like when we made our cake batter, we're going to do the same process as far as mixing our dry ingredients and our wet ingredients separately and then mixing them together. Because in baking, no matter if you're making a cake or if you're making bread or if you're making muffins, it's always important to make sure that all your dry ingredients are really mixed and incorporated together, and all of your wet ingredients are also really mixed and incorporated together before you combine them. It just really helps your batter or your mixture combine even better together so that all the ingredients are really incorporated. So the first thing you're going to need to do is go ahead and grab that large bowl that you're going to use. My oven just preheated, you can hear it beeping. So it's all ready to go. And then the first thing we're going to do is put in our flour. So go ahead and grab your flour bag, and we need 2 cups of flour. So look at all your measuring tools, find the one that says the number 1 and then cup. Ask someone to help you if you need help finding it. And go ahead and put in 2 of these into your bowl. Make sure you fill it all the way to the top. 1. 2. The next thing that we're going to add is 2 tablespoons of sugar. So grab your granulated sugar, look at all of your measuring tools, and find the one that has the number 1 and then the letters TBSP. Because remember, that stands for tablespoon. And we're going to put in 2 of these. 1, 2. So the next thing we're going to add is our baking powder. For baking powder, we are going to need 1½ teaspoons. So we're going to use 2 different measuring spoons for this. So go ahead and open up your baking powder. And the first one that you're going to look for is the one that has the number 1 and then TSP. That stands for teaspoon. And we're going to put 1 of these into our mixture. There we go. And now we need to look for our ½ teaspoon. A ½ teaspoon has the number 1, a slash, the number 2, and then TSP. So ask help if you need help finding it, but we're going to put 1 of these into our dry ingredients. There we go. And now we have all of our baking powder in. The next thing we're going to add is our baking soda. So grab your baking soda, and we are going to put in ½ teaspoon of baking soda. So go ahead and look for that teaspoon that again had the 1/2 TSP. That's ½ teaspoon, and put that in there. Now, why baking powder and baking soda are so important for this mixture is because these 2 things are going to act like the yeast that you typically see in most breads, because just like in cake batters or cake mixtures, baking powder and baking soda are used to help make it fluff up and get nice and big. So that's what we're going to use the baking powder and baking soda for today for our bread with no yeast, is to help make the bread nice and big and fluffy. So now the last thing that we need is salt. So go ahead and grab your salt, and we're going to use that same ½ teaspoon that we just used for our salt, and we're going to put in ½ teaspoon of our salt. Now remember, salt pours out super fast, so be careful when you're using salt. Just like that, pour that in there. Now we have all of our dry ingredients in our bowl. So before we move on and mix this, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my kitchen towel, because remember, last time I said it's always important to have a kitchen towel nearby, and just kind of wipe up all the mess that came from like the flour and the sugar. Move that to the side, because look, it's important to keep your counters what? Clean. Okay, so now that we're all ready, you're gonna grab your whisk. Remember, it looks like this, and we're gonna whisk and stir all of this together until it's all nice and mixed and incorporated. and you can't see the sugar, the baking powder, the salt, or the baking soda anymore. You kind of just see the flour. There we go. Tap off the side. Everything is nice and mixed together. So now we have all of our dry ingredients ready to go. The next thing that we're going to do is mix our wet ingredients together. So again, I'm using my stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can use a hand mixer or just a whisk. Either one works. So let's go ahead and get my bowl or my stand mixer. And we're going to add in our first wet ingredient. So the first thing we're going to add in is our buttermilk, and we need 1 cup of buttermilk. So go ahead and grab your buttermilk and then look at all of your mixing cups and grab the one that says the number 1 and then cup. Ask help if you need help. So when you're pouring your buttermilk, remember you gotta be super careful because we don't want anything to pour out of our measuring cup. So go ahead and pour it on in there, fill it all the way to the top, and then slowly move it and put it into your bowl. There we go. Just like that. So now the next thing that we're going to add to our bowl is our egg. So go ahead and grab your egg. You're only going to need 1 egg. And remember, I always recommend cracking your egg on the counter, not on your bowl, because it makes a clearer line when you crack it on the counter, whereas if you crack it on the bowl, there's more chance the eggshell getting into the egg itself and then into your batter. And we don't want that. So just lightly drop it down on the counter. Once you hear it crack, go ahead and pick it up, find the crack, and then open up your egg. There we go. So now let's go ahead and mix this together. So on my stand mixer, I am using the whisk attachment again, which looks like this, because that will really help just mix all of this bread batter together. So let's go ahead and put this in. And now while you're whisking, again, go ahead and start on number 1. Let it mix for a little bit and then move it up to number 2. And what you want is you want for the egg yolk to fully break and incorporate in with the buttermilk. So let's go ahead and mix this for a little bit until you see no more egg yolk as a full. It's all mixed and incorporated together. Okay, so now we have all of our egg that's mixing with our buttermilk. I can no longer see the egg yolk. And the buttermilk went from a white to kind of a really light yellow color. And that's what you want. So now the next thing that we're going to add to this mixture is butter. So you want 1/4 cup melted butter. So I already went ahead and melted all of my butter, so it's ready to go. But you do want it melted. You don't want it in clumps or in squares or cubes because it won't mix in with this mixture if it's not melted. So go ahead and melt your butter. Ask someone to help you. Put it in the microwave. You're going to want 1/4 cup when it's solid, and if it gets a little bit less, that's okay. We just want to make sure that it's at least 1/4 when we started. So go ahead and put this into your mixture. Just like that. And then again, we're going to mix for a little bit. You can go ahead and turn it on to number 2 to mix, and just mix for about 30 seconds. Okay, there we go. This is all nice and mixed. And now the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to add our dry ingredients to our wet ingredients. So grab your wet ingredients. And just like we did with our cupcake batter, we're going to put this in 2 different portions. Because for those 2 reasons, 1, it helps incorporate it a little better than just putting it all in once. And then 2, we don't want a big mess. Because if we put all of our dry ingredients in at one time, it's going to come flying out once you turn on your mixer. So go ahead and add in your first portion. Just like that. Put this back on your stand, or just get your hand mixer or your whisk. And then go ahead and turn this on to number 2 and mix it for about 30 seconds. And then we'll add in our next portion of dry ingredients. Okay, so now it's all nice and mixed. We got ready to go. Let's go ahead and add in the next portion. I'm just gonna leave it in the stand mixer this time. All right, now when you put it in there, I wanna make sure that you really watch it because we don't wanna overmix, because that would not be any good for our bread once we put it in the oven. So when you're looking at it, you want it so it's just incorporated. You don't want to see any big clumps. You don't want to start seeing it create a ball. You just want it to be so you can't see any of the flour anymore. You are going to see some flour on the side of your bowl. Just leave it. We're going to scrape that off in a second. So let's go ahead and mix. You're only really going to need like 20 seconds of mixing on number 2, and then it should be good to go, and we'll just hand mix the rest. Okay, so now it's all good. You'll see it will look a little chunky, but that's good because bread dough batter doesn't look like cupcake batter. It's not nice and liquidy. It is a little more chunky because of the ingredients we added in here. So go ahead and get out whatever is in your whisk. Get your bowl. Okay, so now that we have this, we're gonna first just kind of fold and mix all of the sides of your dough mixture to get any flour that might be left over on the side. And this is what you want it to look like. Okay, it's not liquidy, it's kind of doughy looking. It might look a little bit like a Play-Doh. And that's what you want your bread dough to look like. So now that we have this already, we're gonna start adding in the last 3 ingredients, which is our cheddar, our chive, and our zucchini, because that's the kind of bread that we're making. So the first thing we're gonna add in is our cheddar cheese. And we're going to need 1/4 cup of cheddar cheese. And then what you're gonna wanna do is grab your 1 cup, and now mine has a little bit of liquid in it, so I'm gonna quickly go rinse this out so that I can use it for cheese. Be right back. Okay, so now I have my nice clean 1 cup. So again, it's the one that has the number 1 and then cup. Ask someone to help if you need help. And we're just gonna go ahead and fill this up with our cheddar cheese all the way to the top. All right, there we go. So now I have my 1 cup. We're just gonna pour that in. And then you need your 1/4 cup. So that one has a 1, a slash, and a 4, and then it says cup. So that's what you're going to need. Go ahead and fill that one up with cheese. There we go. Pour that in there. And remember, if you make a mess, it's okay. We'll clean it up as we go. So once you have all the cheese in your bowl, we're gonna just use a spatula. Remember, this is what a spatula looks like. Usually it has a plastic or a wood stick at the bottom, and then the rubber part at the top that helps scrape. And we're just gonna fold this in, which means you start at the side, go down and under, and then pull it all up. And then keep doing that until all the cheddar cheese is nice and combined with our bread dough. Okay, so now it's all nice and mixed and it's combined. Let's go ahead and clean off our counter space a little bit. So grab your kitchen towel and just move any mess you might have made. There we go. And now the next thing that we're going to add in here is our zucchini. So for zucchini, this is what a zucchini looks like. And we are going to need 1 cup of shredded zucchini. Now right now, this isn't very shredded. So this part you're definitely gonna need an adult to help you with. But go ahead and you're gonna grab these 3. So first thing that you're going to need is a cutting board. Any size cutting board will do. You're also going to need a knife for this and then a grater. So I have a big grater. Sometimes you can buy graters that are a little smaller, but for this one you are gonna need a pretty big grater. And it kind of just looks like this. This one has a lot of different options on here because we're gonna shred it down. So ask someone to help you do this because I don't want you to get hurt or cut, because one, a knife is really sharp, and then two, a grater is really, really sharp as well. So ask an adult to do this part for you so then you can add the shredded zucchini in once it's all cut up. So what you're gonna need to do is just cut off one end of the zucchini, and that's the side that we're going to use on our grater. And then when we're using our grater, you start at the top, you go down, and you just keep going up and down and pushing it towards the grater, and it'll create the shredded zucchini. So let's go ahead and grate this up. All right, let's see how much we have made. So like I said, we need 1 cup. So I'm gonna grab my 1 cup and start adding it in there to see if I need to make any more shredded zucchini. Looks like I need some more, so we're just gonna grate some more. All right, let's see if that was enough. Perfect. So now I have my whole cup filled. We're gonna go ahead and add that to our mixture. And then we're gonna do the same thing that we did with the cheese. We're just gonna scrape from the side, go down, and pull up, and then just fold it over. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna scrape some of the leftover zucchini out of the way because we're gonna add in our next and final ingredient, which is the chives. So here are my chives. They kind of look like long grass sticks. And we want fresh chives if you have it. If you don't, you can always use dried chives, but fresh works a little bit better. And again, if you're using fresh chives, make sure you have someone helping you because you are going to need to use a knife to cut it up into smaller pieces. And you're going to need 2 tablespoons. So if you're using dried chives that just come in a spice jar, measure out 2 tablespoons. If not, we're going to use our fresh chives. We're going to take a bunch and we're going to start cutting them up into small pieces. Again, have someone help you do this because I don't want you to get injured while using a knife. So you're just going to make small little slices so that they look like a sprinkle size. All right, so let's grab my tablespoon so I can measure to see how much I have. All right, I need a little bit more. Okay, so now I have my first tablespoon. Pour that in there and then do 1 more tablespoon. Okay, so now I have my second tablespoon. Pour that in there. And then you can go ahead and move everything out of your way. Grab your bowl. Last time, start on the side, scrape, go to the bottom, and fold over. Okay, so now we have everything combined, and I'll come closer so I can show you what it looks like. But here's my batter. It's all combined. You can see all those pretty colors in there with the green and the orange. And now we're gonna add this to our prepared baking tin that we put the parchment paper in. So go ahead and put that in front of you. And then you're just gonna dump your bread dough straight into the pan. Use your spatula to scrape it down. And then you can scrape whatever is kind of left over so you don't miss out on any of that yumminess. Now that it's in your pan, go ahead and spread it out so it's an even layer and that it covers every part of your pan. This helps your bread dough cook more evenly because it's all the same height and thickness. Because if one part was a little thicker than the other, it would take that a longer time to bake fully. So really spread it around. Okay, so now it's all in there, ready to go. And now you're gonna put this into your preheated oven for 1 hour. And then when it's all done, you're gonna pull it out, and just like we use this trick in our cupcakes, you're gonna take a toothpick, put it down straight in the center of your bread dough, and when you pull it out, there shouldn't be any dough batter on the stick at all. If it is, it means it's not cooked. Go ahead and put it back in for another 5 minutes and then pull it out and try again. But if it comes out clean and there's nothing, then it's ready to go. So let's go ahead and put it in the oven for 1 hour and we will check it when it's all done. Welcome back. So the bread is finally fully cooked and I took it out of the oven and I let it cool for a little bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and take it out of the pan and just put it onto my plate. So when we put the parchment paper into our pan, I said always make sure that you have leftover over the edge because of this reason right now. So to get your bread out of your pan, what you're going to do is just grab both sides of your parchment, lift straight up and put it down on your plate. Just like that. Makes it super simple. This way nothing's stuck to the pan. It comes out nice and clean. So once you've gotten it out of your pan, you can go ahead and take your parchment paper and pull it off the sides. And now to get your bread off of the parchment paper, all you have to do is kind of pick it up, lift it over, grab your bread, and there you go. It is all cooked and ready to go. Just like that. It looks delicious. It smells even better. And then you just let it fully cool and then you can cut it up into slices. You can put butter on it if you want. You can just leave it plain and eat it just with the yummy goodness that's in the bread itself. So I hope you enjoyed creating your very own non-yeast bread with me today. And just like I said in the beginning, this is gonna be a whole new series where we bake lots of really yummy goodiness every single Friday in the afternoon at 2:30. So come on back next Friday and we will be baking something else just as delicious. Have a great weekend and I can't wait to see you again soon. Bye.